Today's video is all on sugar cravings. So why we crave sugar, why we sometimes think we crave sugar, and the little tips and tricks you can do to eliminate it. So I have done a video before on just food cravings, but this one is specifically on sugar because it actually came highly requested by you guys. I've really been asking everyone on Instagram specifically to let me know what topics to film on, and I have a list, and this one was at the top of my list. So I wanted to go through it and talk about some options and also talk about different things that can happen that trick our brains into thinking we're craving sugar, because our brains can really do a lot and make us think certain things that we're not actually feeling. It's almost kind of like placebo effect, like how placebo effect can make us think a medication's working. So it's a good thing in some ways because you can really, it shows you how powerful the mind is and how much you can get through situations by, just the power of the mind. But it also, means that we're vulnerable to certain thoughts that we might not actually be feeling. So let's go through it. So I kind of want to start this video a little simple and just start with sugar alternatives. So when you're craving something really sweet, what's a good alternative that you can do to kind of trick your mind into thinking that you're having it? Then we'll get into the actual addiction part. So let's start with warm drinks. I've got one of mine right here, a little drink I made at home. And warm drinks I thought was a perfect one to cover first because it is winter, it's cold outside, depending on what part of the world you're in. But I feel like it's just something we all kind of go to in the colder months, in the holidays. It's cozy, but it's just the culprit of so many added calories and so much added sugar that we don't need. So one little note I want to add, we don't actually need sugar. So there's daily recommended amounts of food that we need or, certain vitamins we need. But sugar we don't actually need. In fact, the only number that goes along with sugar is how much we should limit ourselves to a day, not how much we should actually be consuming. So let's remember that. We don't need it for energy. It's not like, I know I hear some people say I've got a busy day, I need some sugar. That's just not the right way to go about it. So we don't really need processed sugar. Another thing I want to add is I'm really referring to added sugars when I talk about sugar. So I'm not talking about sugar that's naturally occurring in food like fruit and even certain carbohydrates. I'm talking about added sugar that's sweetened, that's added into recipes, ingredients. Sometimes there's sugar added even when you don't taste it. And you could be kind of addicted to that, eating it without even knowing that you're having something sweet. There could be sugar in a cracker that you don't even realize, and a cracker is not something sugary. So, little tangent. Let's get back to warm drinks. If you can just stop ordering the drinks as they come with the syrups and the added toxins and all the added processed sugar and just go for sweeter spices. So I pulled these out because I love these spices, and I know I've talked about these a lot in other videos, but they're just so good. I've got ground nutmeg, pumpkin pie spice, and Ceylon cinnamon. I really like Ceylon cinnamon the most. When it comes to cinnamon, it is the healthiest. And then with the pumpkin pie spice, this is just cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and cloves. So these spices specifically kind of have a sweeter taste, but don't actually have sugar. And when you do this, and when you add these to foods or drinks, coffees, lattes, whatever, you will still kind of get that sweeter taste, and your mind will think you're having something sugary when you're really not. So I really recommend doing this, adding it to anything, oatmeal, tea, coffee, whatever you've got. Another one is stevia. So stevia is one of my favorite sweeteners. It's plant-based, it's clean, it doesn't actually have sugar in it. I like to rely on these more, but when I really want something sweet, I'll go to stevia. So for warm drink alternatives, I would really recommend trying this, and I think you'll really see some good results. Now let's get to cold drinks. So one thing that I would recommend everyone do is completely cut out fruit juice. So if you followed my channel, you probably noticed that I never say to completely cut something out. I love a little bit of dark chocolate. I love French fries. There's lots of things that I love that you might think I would say, oh, don't ever eat this. Processed fruit juice is the worst thing because honestly, it's really no different than just taking high fructose corn syrup and drinking it. You are stripping down the fruit of all of its fiber. A lot of times when you have it in an actual juice, like an orange juice or something you're getting at the grocery store, it's been so processed that you're really not even getting the natural benefits of the juice anyway. I even say, if you follow my Instagram, I share this a lot when I make juices. Even when I'm juicing a drink, I actually like to go for all greens. I only like to eat my fruit or blend it. Keeping the fiber intact will slow down the absorption, so you're not gonna get that quick spike, and at least you're getting a lot of the benefits of the fruit. When it just comes to juicing, it really is high in sugar. So fully cut out all processed juices, orange juices, cranberry juices, anything like that. And honestly, soda. even if it's diet soda, even if it's regular soda. I used to love soda so much. It was my favorite thing. And then one day in college, I just kind of made a decision to stop. And for some reason, sometimes certain things are really good cold turkey. Like when I went vegan, it wasn't cold turkey. It was definitely slow when I cut out certain food groups at a time. But when I stopped drinking soda, it was just cold turkey and it was easy. So I wanted to share some alternatives that I've got. This one is by SodaStream. And I do want to share that SodaStream did partner with me for part of this video. So all the suggestions I have in this video are mine. This part is sponsored by SodaStream. So I know you guys like when I disclose that, and I really do read your comments. I wanted to share that. So this is one of the coolest devices ever. First of all, it's so small. It's really sleek. It can kind of tuck away, and it basically just makes carbonated water for you. So I also thought this was a cool one to partner with and share with you guys, because everyone's always looking for more green suggestions and environmental suggestions. And whenever I have any plastic or anything in my videos that's not environmental, you guys really get on me, which I think is commendable. So great. So this is kind of a way to make your own sparkling water, not use plastic bottles, and not have so much waste. And it's just really cool. Basically, you fill this up with water. I suggest doing cold water, and you pull this out like this, put it in here, just tuck it in, and there's a little button on the top, and you just hold it down for 2 seconds. You can do it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. It depends on how fizzy you want it. Okay, so that's really it. It's so easy, and I really think that the carbonation helps so much with having a soda craving. If you still want flavor, one thing you can really do that makes this amazing is add a little splash of juice. Like let's say you have blueberry juice or cranberry juice that's not from concentrate. Add a little splash, give it a little flavor. Or one of my favorite tricks that I've been doing for so long is adding in a green tea bag or any kind of flavored tea. This one is by Traditional Medicinals, and it's like a chamomile with lavender. So you can get some that are flavored that don't have sugar flavoring, if that makes sense. They're flavored naturally, but there's no extra sugar. So I used to always add tea bags into a cold water bottle, ice water, and shake it, especially in the summer. But I wanted to share also adding this into carbonated water, because it's actually really good. And I thought of this one day at an airport when I wanted something really cold, but they had nothing. So I ended up buying a sparkling water, and then I went to Starbucks and got passion fruit iced tea, and I mixed them together, and it was pretty amazing. So let me just show you this. Obviously, you wouldn't shake this up too much just because it is carbonated, but you could even just let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes, and some of that flavor kind of adds in. This green tea brand, I really like. This one is by, it's Yogi, but this flavor, I'm sorry, the green tea super antioxidant, it has more flavor in it than just green tea. They've got lemongrass, let's see, burdock root, dandelion root, grapeseed extract. It just has a sweet taste to it. So don't be fooled by the green tea one. If you don't like it, I would try this brand. It's really good. So if you guys want to try this fizzy, I will put a link below. It's $69.99 on Bed Bath & Beyond. You can get it in store or on their website, and I'll just make sure to link it below. So now let's talk about food. One thing I think everyone should really, really pay attention to is if you're eating a lot of snacks that are low fat, non-fat, it could be snacks, it could be meals. So when companies will make things low fat or non-fat, oftentimes they'll compensate that by adding a lot of sugar so that you're still getting flavor. But you're buying it quick at the grocery store, and maybe you're just looking at the fat because that's what marketing is supposed to do. So when you see snacks like this, I'd always recommend looking at the sugar, and really in general, avoiding it. If you're buying a bag of Oreo cookies and it says 0 fat, then something's wrong. I'd rather you have too, I'm suggesting, the food in its actual form than manipulating it so much that they somehow took the fat, but what are they doing to get it to manipulate to that? So pay attention to those things. What I'd recommend in place of that, if you want a sweeter food, is getting a sweet potato or a yam or a squash and adding in these sweet spices that I kind of talked about before. You could even add in a little bit of stevia and just having that kind of satisfy your sweet tooth craving, and just focusing on real whole foods instead of the low fat and processed food. Another tip I want to share is to avoid simple carbs. So we've got simple carbs and we've got complex carbs. And when I talk about simple carbohydrates, I'm talking white flour, white pasta, bread, white potatoes. Even though I do like potatoes, I eat them quite often. If you feel like you have a sugar craving or a sugar addiction, this is something you want to watch. You might not eat these foods and think like, oh, this is my sweet tooth, but these foods have a high amount of sugar. And what happens when you eat them is it gives you that quick spike in blood sugar. So you get this like quick boost of energy, then you get a crash because it's not sustained. Then what happens? You're going to crave more of that food because you're just more so craving the energy. You're not actually craving the taste of the food. So a sugar addiction can actually go far beyond your taste buds and what you think that you are actually wanting. So cutting those out can really help. Now, if you do start to cut those foods out, you might notice in the first few days that you're really craving sugar and sweets even more because your body is just getting used to that adjustment. It's also what I tell people who newly go vegan. Sometimes they don't feel very well the first week or two. I always say, give it a little bit of time. Of course, if you're really not feeling well, you always see your doctor, but give it a little bit of time on a new diet for your body to adjust. And once it gets used to eating like real whole foods and having more of like a sustained energy instead of that crash and burn, you'll notice a much better difference. And the last diet tip I want to share is to look at your protein and fat consumption. So if you're not eating a high amount of protein and maybe you're just eating a high amount of simple carbs, this might be the reason you never feel sustained or full. Now, if you are eating a high protein or fat diet, this tip might not apply to you, but this is a good thing to notice whether you're vegan or not. Sometimes, it doesn't matter. Some vegans get plenty of protein, some don't. But proteins and fats just don't spike your insulin the same way. They don't spike your blood sugar the same way, so they'll keep you fuller longer. And that's really what you have to pay attention to, why you're craving something. When you're just eating these simple carbs and you're craving something really quickly, and then it goes away, and then you want it again, it really is almost like an addiction. Pay attention to whether your sugar craving or addiction is more so a habit or if it's actually what you're craving. So, for example, some people are like, I crave dessert every time I finish dinner. You might think that it's a craving, but conditioned responses are such a real thing. Kids that come home from school might always want a snack because they're used to having a snack. So really pay attention to that environment and see if you change up the environment, what happens. Like, let's say you eat a really late lunch and skip dinner one night just for an experiment. And if you don't crave a sweet after, maybe it's because you're not craving it after your meal the same way. It's not like at 9 p.m. every night you're going to crave it. Or maybe if you don't come home after school one day and you go run errands or do something, it's not that like association. So really pay attention to triggers like this and see if you can break yourself out of a habit that might be causing you to have a sugar addiction. So lastly, I just want to close this video by sharing, I know sugar might not seem like the most serious thing. And like I said, I do love fruit. I eat fruit all the time, but it really goes beyond just the risk of diabetes, the risk of obesity. While those are really serious, it also just really messes with your hormones. And when your hormones are out of whack, your entire ecosystem is out of whack, and you could experience any kind of symptom like fatigue, stress, changes in mood, irritability, holding fat around your waist, holding extra fat anywhere. So there's so many different symptoms you could experience that you wouldn't necessarily draw back to a sugar craving. But when your hormones are out of whack, really everything can change. So really pay attention to this. And if it's something that you're experiencing, I think you should try these tips and see if they work for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions on sugar cravings or on this topic, let me know. I will link the soda stream below the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.